Okay, so we're going to talk about anxiety today, but probably not in the way you're used to thinking about it. This isn't just about getting rid of symptoms. It's really about a huge shift in perspective, about building the kind of resilience you need to live a genuinely meaningful life, even when things get tough. Let's kick things off with a number that shows why this conversation matters to pretty much all of us.
So just take a look at this number, 1 in 5. Now, this isn't just some abstract statistic from a textbook. It represents real people. Our friends, our family members, our coworkers, and yeah, sometimes it represents us.
So what does that mean? It means 1 out of every 5 adults in the US deals with a mental health challenge in any given year. That's the reality of it. And it tells you that this isn't some fringe issue. It's a core part of being human. And it's exactly why the old ways of thinking about recovery just aren't cutting it anymore.
Which brings us to this really central question. What if recovery isn't just about chasing a symptom-free life? What if it's about something bigger, something more profound, like actively, intentionally building a life that feels full of purpose and connection, even if the struggle is still part of the story?
So, first things first, we need to completely reframe how we look at anxiety. This is not about some personal flaw or weakness. It's about understanding a fundamental part of the human condition and learning how we can relate to it in a new, more helpful way.
And this right here, this is such a critical distinction. For decades, the main goal was what we call clinical recovery, which basically means making the symptoms go away. But look over on the right. The entire focus is shifting to personal recovery. And this is about building a life that feels satisfying and hopeful, a life where you feel like you're contributing even if some of those symptoms are still around. It's a total game changer, and honestly, a much more empowering way to approach everything.
And let's get really precise with our words here, because it matters. Fear is what you feel when a car suddenly cuts you off on the highway. It's right here, right now, and it's tied to a very clear threat. Anxiety, though, that's future-oriented. It's our brain's reaction to a fuzzy, unclear what-if down the road. Just understanding that difference is huge. It helps demystify the feeling, right? Anxiety isn't just some random chaotic thing. It's our brain trying its best to protect us from a future it can't quite pin down.
All right, so if that's what we're up against, what does the actual evidence-based professional toolkit look like? Let's break down some of the most effective approaches out there.
In the world of therapy, 2 of the heavyweights are CBT and ACT. So CBT, as you can see, really focuses on challenging and changing your thoughts. It's all about what's called cognitive restructuring. But ACT, well, ACT takes a different road. Instead of fighting with your thoughts, you learn to accept them, to make room for them, and then you take action based on your values anyway. The goal isn't to get rid of anxiety, it's to build what's called psychological flexibility so that you are driving the car, not your anxious thoughts.
And this quote from the Mayo Clinic just nails the power of CBT. It's not about pretending that problems aren't real. It's about getting clarity. It's learning to view challenging situations more clearly so you can respond more effectively instead of just automatically reacting from a place of fear.
And of course, therapy isn't the only tool in the box. For a lot of people, medications like SSRIs can be an absolutely vital piece of the puzzle. They don't magically cure anxiety, but what they can do is provide the neurobiological stability, that foundation that makes all the other hard work, like therapy and skill building, even possible. And that brings us to what might be the most empowering part of all of this, the skills that we can all build for ourselves. You know, professional tools are vital, but personal resilience is where we really start to find our own strength.
So what even is resilience? I like to think of it as a muscle for your mind. It's not about being tough enough to avoid hardship altogether. That's impossible. It's about your ability to adapt, to bounce back, and maybe even grow stronger when life inevitably throws you a curveball.
And here it is. If you take away just one thing today, please let it be this. Resilience is not a fixed trait. It is not something you either have or you don't. It is a skill. And just like learning to play the guitar or speak a new language, it's something you can absolutely build with practice over time. And that right there is an incredibly hopeful message.
Okay, so how do we practice it? Here are 4 concrete evidence-based steps. First, you can challenge your thoughts, just like in CBT. Second, you take action, even tiny little actions, to fight back against that feeling of paralysis. Third, you practice acceptance and mindfulness to stop that constant, exhausting struggle with difficult feelings. And finally, number 4, you cultivate self-compassion. You learn to treat yourself with the same kindness you'd give to a good friend.
Now, beyond those mental practices, there are these foundational lifestyle habits that literally build resilience from the ground up. Let's start with moving your body. The science on this is just crystal clear. Exercise is one of the most powerful natural anxiety reducers we have. Hitting that 150-minute mark each week can fundamentally change how your body and brain handle stress.
And then there's what you eat. We now understand that the gut-brain axis is this incredible two-way communication highway. A diet that's full of whole foods, probiotics, and healthy fats isn't just good for your body, it directly feeds your brain and can help reduce the kind of inflammation that's been linked to anxiety.
And finally, sleep. I'm telling you, this one is non-negotiable for mental health. Protecting your sleep by keeping a consistent schedule, by creating a healthy wind-down routine, is one of the single most powerful things you can do to regulate your emotions. So we've covered the professional tools, we've talked about the personal skills, but here's the thing. Resilience isn't built in a vacuum. It's forged in connection with other people. Community support offers something that even the best therapists can't, the incredible power of shared experience. This quote about the ADA's support groups just says it all. A friendly, safe, and supportive place where that simple act of sharing and listening proves that you are not going through this alone.
And here's the why behind it. Here's why peer support is so incredibly effective. It's all based on shared, lived experience. Nothing cuts through that feeling of isolation faster than hearing someone else put your own struggle into words. It gives you hope, and it's so empowering to see other people navigating their own journeys.
So let's start to pull all these pieces together. If we agree that recovery is a journey, not just a destination, what does the roadmap for that journey even look like? Well, thankfully, there's a really powerful framework that can help guide us. It's called the CHIME framework, and it beautifully sums up the pillars of that personal recovery journey we talked about at the beginning. It stands for connection with others, hope for the future, a positive identity that goes beyond a diagnosis, a sense of meaning and purpose in your life, and the empowerment to feel like you're in the driver's seat. And you know, the future here is incredibly exciting. We're seeing the emergence of rapid-acting treatments that work on completely new pathways in the brain. We're seeing trauma-informed care become the standard, not just a niche specialty. And we are finally integrating mind-body therapies that acknowledge that our stress and trauma live in our bodies, not just in our heads. Healing is getting so much more holistic and so much more personalized.
So we'll end with this last thought. Resilience isn't something you have, it's something you do. It's a skill you practice. So the question really isn't, am I a resilient person? The real question is the one you see here. What is one small, manageable way you can practice building your resilience today? Thanks for tuning in to this explainer.